Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome back to the predictions and breakdowns. We are a little bit late, but we are going to get this done in less than 15 minutes. This is the predictions and breakdowns for UFC Fight Night. Magomed Ankalaev versus Bogdan Guskov, which is taking place tomorrow starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, July 25th, 2026. We are going to start with the early prelim opener and just get it done super quick. We're going to get it done with the betting lines. We're going to get it done with some good prop picks, and we're going to get it done if you're looking for a Tapology pick. Well, we're going to give you the best ones possible. So let's go right away. First on the early prelims, Abdul Hussein versus Cody Gibson. We're going with Abdul Hussein to win via knockout in round 1. I think Cody Gibson's just looking a little bit slower and worse for wear more recently. He looked incredibly slow against Arichi Long, and Arichi Long just absolutely put him out cold. Abdul is a really high-level submission artist as well, but he's got really good hands. He's got the last 2 wins by knockout, the last 2 big wins by knockout, I should say. Gift Walker's garbage. Sami Yaya and Tyson Nam. Tyson Nam knockout is a very high-level knockout for me. Tyson Nam used to be in the UFC, was a half-decent contender, left UFC on proper terms, but Abdul should have an easy time against the old Cody Gibson. 38 years old, a little bit weathered, almost 39, will turn 39, I believe, at the end of next month. He's got not a lot of time left in the UFC, and this is probably going to make it a bit easier for him to depart. Next on the prelims, Ankalaev versus Mike Davis. We're going with Mike Davis to get it done against Ankalaev. I think Davis just has a little bit better boxing. I think he has a little bit better gas tank. I think he's experienced a lot more in the UFC than Nurullo has actually been able to even get after. He's been in the UFC longer. He's had more UFC fights. He was actually able to beat Mason Jones in Mason Jones' first stint inside the UFC, which is a super high level win for me. And I really like Mike Davis here. I think the plus 3.5 sitting at minus 135 is one of your best value picks of the week. I think Mike Davis being 2 inches taller, being a little bit rangier, he's going to be able to stay on the outside and not allow Nurullo to use that grappling technique. I think he's just going to be able to just piece him off, use proper wrestling defense against the cage, and just eventually win a really heavy and close 29-28 decision on the scorecards. I think Mike Davis is not getting his due. I think the plus 190 tag is just disrespectful. Yeah, I think the value's on Davis this week. Even a knockout late, Mike Davis by TKO round 3, I could really see. I think Ankalaev just gassing out, not getting his way, eventually just breaking and falling through. Next on the prelims, Brandon Ribeiro versus Magomed Chuchalov. And we're going to go with Chuchalov to get it done via knockout in round 1. Now, Brandon Ribeiro has consistently been one of those guys that's a big threat for a lot of high-level contenders. They go into these fights thinking that he's an easy out. Meanwhile, Ribeiro has consistently been one of the heaviest hitting guys at light heavyweight. He's a very dangerous striker, and he does catch guys off guard whenever they come in all willy-nilly. He does tend to just try and take their face off, and he is a little bit chinny himself, but he does have a lot of durability when it comes to just heavy hands. He can eat a couple of them before he goes out cold. Now, Magomed Chuchalov did have some success against Kyle Machado in the regional scene. Just put him out cold recently, not even 3 months ago. I put him out in less than 3 minutes, I believe. I think it was like a minute 40 in, and he absolutely slept him. Brandon Ribeiro does not have a chin like Kyle Machado, so I would expect this to be even quicker. But Chuchalov just needs to be watching out for that devastating overhand right and the just wild left that Ribeiro will swing whenever he gets in close. I'm going to go with Magomed Chuchalov. Should be quick, maybe even under half a round if you're looking for some value, but under 1.5 rounds sitting at minus 265 on DraftKings is probably your best value for that fight. Next on the prelims, Ismail Bonfim versus Axel Sola. And we're going with Axel Sola to get done via knockout in round 2. Ismail Bonfim kind of got fraud checked by Nazim Sadikov, and then he just got beaten to shit by Chris Padilla. And now you have Axel Sola, who's been devastating on the regional scene in France. Had a really good knockout win over Reese McKee. Mason Jones was able to control him and just kind of beat him up in a very, very difficult decision. But now you are back to striker v striker. Axel Sola probably just going to be able to just piece him up and keep the move on Ismail Bonfim. And I think Axel Sola, realistically, if this was still on the regional scene in Aries, had this been inside Aries FC, Axel Sola would be like a 3-1 favorite over Bonfim. I think Bonfim just hasn't proven a whole lot inside the UFC. The fighters he has proven himself against are not high level. Terrence McKinney only having 3 minutes of gas, and Vince Pichel being old as shit are not very high level wins to put on your record. Axel Sola being a minus 200 tag, probably some of the best value you'll ever see in his career at this point. So I'm going to go with Axel Sola, minus 200 tag. Give me the value. Give me the ability of Axel Sola to win by knockout at a plus 180. And I'm just going to adore those fucking lines all day because that's just a fantastic value. This one's a little bit more awkward, but we still like it anyway. Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Sam Patterson next on the prelims. And we're going with Sam Patterson to win by knockout or submission, sitting at minus 210 tag on Bet365. I'm also picking Sam Patterson just to win because I think Sam Patterson's just super good. He's a high level contender at 170. He's been consistently really good. A lot of guys wrote him off after the Ashmu's knockout, which I believe he was at 155 for. He was draining himself to get all the way down there, which, yes, he was. And now you see him at welterweight. He looks a lot better. Michael Page, I believe he took a round off Michael Venom Page, if I'm not mistaken. And now he has Santiago Ponzinibbio in front of his face. Daniel Rodriguez put him out. Kevin Holland put him out. You have Muslim Salikov almost able to put him out. I think Sam Patterson, high-level contender, 9 years younger, going to be able to just blitz him down. Should be quick, should be within the first 2 rounds, and it should be a very easy win for Sam Patterson. I'm also going to take the side of submission, especially on Tapology. I think a lot of people are just being neglectful of the fact that Sam Patterson has been a consistently good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner throughout his entire career. He's got a high level submission rate, and he's been consistent with that throughout his entire career, even going into the UFC. He has been a little bit more knockout heavy recently, but that is because he's having fights with heavy strikers. Santiago Ponzinibbio probably going to try and close the distance, seeing as he's going to get hurt pretty bad here. He is outranged in every single spot in the fight, and he's probably going to try and get close to Sam Patterson, maybe fall over while shooting a takedown. Sam Patterson grabs a guillotine or grabs the back and chokes him out. I can see that happening. The fact that it's a plus 350 or whatever it is, plus 400, and Patterson's a minus 500 tag, that's probably the best value. Knockout sitting at plus 105 or whatever it is, not worth the tag, honestly. More value on the submission prop. Next on the prelims, Dustin Jacoby versus Mohamed Saeed. And if you were looking at this fight in glory, you'd be picking Dustin Jacoby all day. Mohamed Saeed, not really a high-level grappler. He's more of a KO artist. He loves to just stand and kickbox. And I think Dustin Jacoby kind of getting what he wants in this scenario is getting a kickboxer v kickboxer scenario. And I'm just going to go Dustin Jacoby to win by knockout. I think you kind of have to go with the high-level skill of Dustin Jacoby. You kind of have to go with the fact that the kid has consistently been in the high-level scene for his entire career. He was in Glory, moved to UFC, still knocking guys out, still overcoming adversity even through the MMA scene. Even though he had a couple bad losses in a row, he is now moving forward, and he is now on a 3-fight knockout streak. And I'm going to just continue this with saying that Dustin Jacoby is going to knock out Mohamed Saeed in the second round. I think Jacoby's just going to be a little bit quicker. I think he's just going to be a little bit quicker on the draw, and I think Mohamed Saeed is going to be a little bit starstruck being in the UFC. I think ring rust is real. I think UFC jitters is real, and I think Mohamed Saeed is just going to have a problem here after only having a shitty win over Luis Henrique da Silva over the last 10 months, and I think he's just going to be in some shit with Dustin Jacoby trying to light him up on the feet while he's being outranged. I'm going to go with Dustin Jacoby. I'm going to go with the fact that I know the guy. We've seen his ability. We know he has adversity in fights, and he's still able to overcome that stuff. So we're just going to go with him and stick with the kickboxing vet. Next on the prelims, you have the highlighted prelim of the evening. They are looking for a finish on this, but it is a little bit questionable in honesty. Walter Walker versus Thomas Peterson. We're going with Walter Walker to win by heel hook submission, probably in round 2. Thomas Peterson is definitely the better grappler. than Walter Walker, but Walter Walker has been consistently a little bit more crafty with his submissions lately. I could see him figuring out a weird heel hook scenario, especially because guys are so worried about it that they're putting themselves in bad positions for that exact fucking submission because of the fact that they're so stressed out about it. Thomas Peterson has been in the UFC for a long time, fought really high-level contenders, was quite good in the LFA as well. And he is looking to get a good win here against Walter Walker, forcing himself up to the top 15. Now, I do think Thomas Peterson is a good contender. I do think he's probably as middle as the heavyweights get. He definitely is not high level, and he's definitely not low level, but he is fighting a 6'6" Walter Walker. He is fighting out with a 4.5 reach disadvantage, and he is fighting a guy who has been consistently a 70% finish rate throughout his entire career, including through the UFC. So I'm just going to go with Walter Walker to win by knockout or submission for a bet. I think Walter Walker is just going to be a little bit better in more scenarios than Thomas Peterson. I think if it really just goes pure grappling, I mean, Walter Walker has been practicing it so much. Probably the threat of a submission is more on the side of Walter Walker at this point with offensive grappling from Thomas Peterson. But I do think that Thomas Peterson would be able to out-grapple and outlast a Walter Walker had it gone longer than 2 rounds, and that being because Walter Walker hasn't seen a second round in the last 4 fights of his career. So we're going to go with Walter Walker, but we're going to be on a little bit cautionary tale here. Excuse me, I think a fucking sip of water there before my voice just drained away from me. I think if this fight goes past a round and a half, you probably look toward the side of Thomas Peterson. You could probably bet that on a separate ticket over 1.5 rounds, Thomas Peterson. I'm sure it pays probably plus 350, plus 400, something like that. Peterson does have a lot of finishes in his own respect, but I do not think... What, Kayla? I'm recording right now. Can you just give me a second? Okay, fantastic. Amazing. I do not think that Thomas Peterson is going to be able to outlast Walter Walker in terms of first round strength, but I do think as the fight goes on, probably Walter Walker going to start fading, going to start falling apart quite quickly, and I could see Peterson just kind of overwhelming him just with just basic fundamentals realistically. So I'm just going to go with Walter Walker, but again, cautionary tale probably precedes that one. Next, the start of the main card, Abu Vagayev versus Saigid Isgakmaev. We're going with Saigid Isgakmaev to win by decision. I think Vagayev should not have been signed by the UFC. He hasn't fought in a year and a half. Saigid Isgakmaev kind of on a similar spot. Hadn't fought in 4 years before he fought Nicholas Dalby. And I really thought Nicholas Dalby was going to beat the living hell out of him as well. And Saigid still put up a really, really, really strong fight. Still almost beat Nicholas Dalby, who I rate as a really high-level contender. And then you have Vagayev, who, again, hasn't fought in a year and a half, going to be fighting a guy who just beat up Nicholas Dalby, arguably, could have won the fight, and he's getting a plus 200 tag. He's outranging him. He's a bit taller. He's a bit bigger. I'm going to go with Saigid Isgakmaev just to win. Abu Bakar is just one of those guys you can't be... you can't really like too much. He's a decision artist. I don't know why they signed him. They're looking for, they got rid of Muhammad Makayev because he wasn't exciting, and now they got another guy who's just not exciting whatsoever at 170. Whoop-de-fucking-do. I'm going to go with Saigid to just melt his head off, maybe get a guillotine on him and rip his face off. Next on the main card, Rizvan Kuniev versus Tyrell Fortune. I'm going to go with Rizvan Kuniev to win by round 3 knockout. I think Tyrell Fortune is good for 1 round, and then he falls apart. I think Rizvan Kuniev is just going to beat the living shit out of the kid in round 2 and 3. I say kid, he's 36. He's older than Rizvan too. But I think Tyrell Fortune is just so bad. I think he was a Bellator kid, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he was Bellator and PFL. I don't rate the Bellator guys very highly. They've consistently been bad in the UFC. I thought Marcin Tybura beat Tyrell Fortune, if I'm being completely honest, and I don't know how the fuck that went the other way. But I think Rizvan Kuniev going to be able to get my revenge here, and I think he's going to beat the fuck out of Tyrell Fortune and knock him out before that final bell. He is outranged. He is out masked, and I think Rizvan Kuniev is just a little bit better, especially with weighing so heavy. It's kind of weird that he is as good as he is, excuse me. I think Tyrell Fortune going to be feeling the heat after the first round. So I'm just going to go with Rizvan Kuniev. The value is there. Minus 335 is a good tag. A little bit heavy, but Tyrell Fortune being a round 1 or bust, you can probably understand that tag. Next on the main card, John Pork is fighting against Damian Rezbecki, Wild Chenko, Magomed Zainikov. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I probably wouldn't bet this fight. I think I canceled some of my bets as well for this one. Damian Rizbeki taking on Magomed Zainikov is a kind of a red flag fight. Rizbeki outranging him by almost 6 inches. Zainikov being a decision guy who strikes and doesn't really have heavy hands. Rizbeki being a guy who is literally just fucking torching dudes on the regional scene, has a 90% finish rate, and is looking to just fucking blitz over Magomed Zainikov and just go into the UFC looking like Jesus Christ himself being risen from the fucking dead. And I'm gonna probably stay away from this one. This one, I am picking Zainikov, John Pork to win by decision. I think maybe he's going to be able to outlast just the absolute devastation that Rizbeki has in the first couple rounds. But the problem is this kid doesn't seem to really go away. He seems to have a lot of really good pressure, and he seems to, even though he's not fighting high-level contenders, he seems to always find a way to just end the fight whenever he feels like it. And that's kind of a fucking bad one to have for Magomed Zainikov. And even though this is one of Khabib's boys, one of Islam's boys, I'm not going to lie, dude, this could be one of the times that one of the Nurmagomedov camp guys goes out cold, because Damian's really, really strong. He's got really high-level capabilities, and he's just got the type of swag about him that Magomed Zainikov could just walk into an absolute blitzer after trying to play the kickboxing game. I'm just going to go with Zainikov, but again, that one's a cautionary tale as well. Probably looking at over 1.5 rounds as a lock. I don't mind it at all. Probably around 2 TKO could come for Zainikov, but I think probably we're looking at a decision for that one. The next two are super easy. Islam Dulatov versus Wellington Turman. You're going with Islam Dulatov to win via round 1 knockout. Wellington Turman should not even be in the UFC. Hasn't fought in 3 years. Fighting an absolute devastation in Islam Dulatov, who's literally a fucking model on the side, as well as being a UFC fucking demon at welterweight. So I'm going to go with Islam Dulatov, round 1 finish. Not even going to be close. He's just going to elbow him and send him back to the fucking nether realm. That will be the biggest highlight on Saturday morning's card. Next, the co-main event of the evening, Steve Erceg versus Ramazan Tamerov. Over 1.5 rounds is a good bet. Ramazan Tamerov by knockout or Steve Erceg by decision on DraftKings is probably your best bet. Steve Erceg is probably going to be my pick by decision. Ramazan Tamerov is good, but Steve Erceg, again, a little bit more dimensional than Charles Johnson. He also arguably beat Pantoja, in my opinion. And now you have Tamerov, who is just trying to get an easy way into the top 10 at UFC flyweight, and I think Steve Erceg is going to be the blockade in this one. Had a tough fight against Ode Osborne, got dropped. Tim Elliott didn't really have a fucking chance. Ramazan Tamerov will be the first real test again for Steve Erceg after those 3 big losses in a row. He did get knocked out as well in a really, really tough fight against Kai Kara France, which is kind of rough. But should be able to beat Tamerov. He is a bit chinny at this point. Tamerov does have a lot of knockouts in round 1. He does have a lot of blitzing potential, but you could hedge it, round 1 knockout for Tamerov, and then just place Steve Erceg on your parlays, and that would be good enough. So I'm just going to go with Steve Erceg. I think the value is still good on Erceg, being a plus 100. That's kind of ridiculous, and Tamerov, round 1 knockout, is definitely very, very light. He has majority round 1 finishes and doesn't really do anything after that. So you can play the 29-28 if you want plus 3.5 for Tamerov, but I doubt it. Erceg is going to be the pick for me. Finally, what are we at? 17 minutes? We got close. I said 15, 17. Magomed Ankalaev versus Bogdan Guskov. This one's easy. I'm going to go with Magomed Ankalaev to win by knockout in round 2, but Bogdan Guskov is a very, 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 very live underdog. He's arguably bigger than Magomed Ankalaev, and he does actually have more mass, in my opinion. He does hit harder than Magomed Ankalaev as well, but the wrestling approach and just the overall capabilities of Magomed Ankalaev is kind of where I start to get worried. He does have a lot better strength of schedule as well. He's fought literally the best possible people in the world at light heavyweight. Meanwhile, Bogdan Guskov's kind of been lifted up into the top 10. Guskov does have the ability to knock him out. Plus 410 tag is a little bit steep, but I do think Magomed Ankalaev has good value on the knockout tag. I do think under 2.5 rounds is good value, and I think Bogdan Guskov realistically is good value for the tag, but I think Magomed Ankalaev probably 8 times out of 10 wins the fight every single time. So we're just going to stay away from that and just pick Magomed Ankalaev to win by finish. And maybe bet Bogdan Guskov on the side for fun. See if we can smash something. Maybe put a big parlay and put Bogdan Guskov on the last leg. See if you can win like 20 grand for fun why not? That's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have not already. I'll see you guys all tomorrow morning, sort of at 9 a.m. And we'll be live for the entire card with all the bets sitting right here in the corner for you live. I'll see you guys all later. Peace.